Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the presentation of Denique Smith. She is our journalist in residence, journalist in the Huis for the months of March and April. She is the editor of the Burger Gezond, which is a bi-weekly supplement, and she has been part of Media 24 for over 5 years now. In the past years, she has told the stories of many different peoples, from very hard articles to lifestyle changes and articles, which is lighthearted. Initially, she wanted to study medicine, but her Afrikaans teacher also sparked some sort of journalism love in her. So since then, she has been a journalist after she's done with high school. Ladies and gentlemen, Denique Smith will give a presentation about obesity. So please enjoy.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Denique, like I was introduced, and so I've been the editor of the Burger Gezond, the health supplement of the newspaper. And so today I'm going to talk about the obesity pandemic or epidemic in South Africa and how to address the problem. But what I'm also going to look at is the other side of the coin of um, hunger in South Africa and how we have two burdens in South Africa and how they actually live in the same ecosystem, if I can put it like that. So I'm just going to talk about what is obesity, the prevalence of obesity globally, and obesity in South Africa, the factors contributing to obesity in South Africa, and also focus on
The
South
following
African
story
women and
contains themes that
obesity
may be.
and how these numbers will grow over the years and the economic impact of obesity on South Africa and the government's prevention and management strategy that they've put in place. And then I'm just going to have like a small part about hunger. Um, there was Carte Blanche did a great segment on it, especially in the Eastern Cape. And yeah, so let's get into it. So, according to the World Health Organization, obesity is defined as an abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that presents a risk to health. It is typically assessed using body mass index, but over the years, people don't really use the BMI as a uh, symbol or to assess your body mass or to say if you're overweight or obese, because there's been a few problems with that, because I can be short and be say 2 kilograms overweight according to the BMI, but then I'm considered obese, which probably is not the case. um, so, obesity is a global problem, and a study released by Lancet showed that in 2022, more than 1 billion people in the world were living with obesity. And it's been a growing problem in South Africa as well. Uh, we've seen it. That's why the South African government implemented the sugar tax in 2018. So, worldwide, obesity among adults had more than doubled since 1990 and had quadrupled among children and adolescents, 5 to 19 years of age. And so, South Africa has undergone a nutritional transition over the past 30 years and is characterized by the triple burden of malnutrition. Households are simultaneously experience undernutrition, hidden hunger, and also overweight or obesity due to nutrient poor diets. And according to recent statistics, South Africa has seen significant rise in obesity rates over the past few decades. So this is just an overview of the prevalence and of obesity globally. So this was this graphic was done by Discovery Vitality. They did a whole segment on it on causes and how to address the problem. They've looked at how to prevent obesity from uh, or yeah, prevent actually children being obese. So, what makes the world larger? It's unhealthy, energy dense foods in large portion sizes that are affordable and easily available. And what we've seen in South Africa is that people will rather buy a how they call it in South Africa, a kota. So it's like a bread that's hollowed out with chips in it. So say for instance that is 15 rand with the spaza shop around the corner from your house. And a healthy wrap is say 30 rand. Someone who uh, earns say 500 rand a week, and this is like a really a generalization, would you rather buy the quota or would you buy the wrap as a lunch or as dinner? And that's one of the reasons why probably South Africa has such obesity rates, because it's not nutritious, but it keeps you fuller for longer and it's cheaper. And it's you can buy, say, five quotas for yourself for 3 days to sustain yourself. Because I mean, the cheaper you can get away, the you have more money to buy food than to buy a healthy wrap. And also misleading food packaging labels. People don't know what's in their foods, or they don't read the labels. There's no indications of this is a high sugar content, or it's high in saturated fats. And what I've seen here in the Netherlands is that they have like a Nutri-code on the or on the packaging. So the food is based on or scored from A to E. And basically, if you buy, say, for instance, all brand flakes, that gets a score of an A because it's nutritious, it's full grain, it keeps you fuller for longer. But a Coke maybe gets a D or a E because it has a high sugar content. So obesity in South Africa, this is a study that showed 13%. This shows a 13% obesity rate among children aged 1 to 5, twice the global average of the 6.1%. And 70% of South African women and about 40% of men were either overweight or obese, which is alarming because, um, say, for instance, you get married and you want to have children. Doctors would rather, or they advise you that you need to lose weight first for you to carry a healthy term. Um, because there's a lot of complications, high blood pressure, um, and you need to keep your blood pressure low for to have like a healthy pregnancy. And this nutrition survey showed that 69% of obese adults lived in a food insecure households where families had little dietary choices. And more than two-thirds of females were either overweight or obese, or and adults aged 35 to 64 years had a significantly greater prevalence of obesity than younger age groups. So I'm going to show you two graphs. So this is just an overview of obesity in South Africa, and they've based it on the BMI by province. The yellow is underweight, and the green is normal weight, or the percentage of the province that is normal weight, and then overweight, and then obese. And this is the adult female BMI by by province. And as you can see, that there are more obese people in KwaZulu-Natal than there is in the Northwest. Yes, the Northwest has the lowest percentage, and that's what they found in the survey. So factors contributing to the obesity levels in SA is the unhealthy diet, sedentary lifestyle, and socioeconomic factors, and also genetics and environment. As I said earlier, socioeconomic factors play a big role in or contribute hugely to the obesity levels. Just because people don't get the nutritious food that they need to get. Healthy foods in general, they're much more expensive. So, would you, if like the example I made earlier was the quota and the healthy wrap. People would rather buy a bread or three breads than buy, say, for instance, um, I don't know. But yeah, it's easy for me now to say I can buy a nutritious meal because I can afford it. But if you're in a situation where you can't afford it, then you don't care about if it's nutritious or if it adds value to your life. And obviously, we know what the health impacts of obesity is. Cardiovascular diseases such as hypertension, heart diseases, and stroke. There's a type 2 diabetes. Obesity is a significant risk factor for developing diabetes. Um, and certain types of cancer are more prevalent in obese individuals. And then also mental health issues where obesity can contribute to depression, low self esteem, and other mental disorders. Um, yeah, I guess when you try to improve your life and your lifestyle, I'm going to come to that later, where you want to go jog or you don't have money to join a gym, that also contributes because if you don't have someone to walk with you to say 2 kilometers, we know what South Africa's that it's unsafe for women or people in general to go on a jog alone or to walk for 5 kilometers around the block of your house. Um, and you then decide, is it really necessary for me to go and exercise? And people also don't have access to, say, YouTube for home workouts. But I'll come back to that later. So I want to play something. So this is just a short, or this is a short interview that one of ENCA's journalists did with the president of the Association for Dietetics of South Africa. And she's talking about how obesity is affecting South African women. So, the World Obesity Atlas of 2022 predicts that 50% of South African women will be not just overweight, but obese by 2030. This is the highest predicted obesity rate in all of Africa and a major concern when it comes to women's health. According to Professor Salome Kriya, a registered dietitian who also serves as a professor of nutrition at the Center of Excellence for Nutrition at the Northwest University, says the odds are stacked up against South African women, and solutions to the obesity crisis are linked to the improvement of conditions for women across the socioeconomic health landscapes. Um, According to her, women are facing diverse challenges regarding obesity, and if we start with the basics in comparison to men, women have less lean mass and more mass from early childhood, and therefore they have a lower metabolic rate. So even if women proportionally eat no more than men, they will gain weight easier. And I think us as women, we always ask like, why do men lose weight so quickly? And that's she explains it there because they have a less lean mass, and we're always so worried, do I look fat in this dress? We don't really look fat in this dress. We just, yeah, we gain weight much easier. But there are many other challenges that concern South African women. So I'm going to play this video for you. I think it's 7 minutes long, but I'll stop it in the middle yeah, if it needs be.
All right, welcome back. Now, here's a shocking stats for you. Half of all South African adults are either overweight or obese, and around 50% of South African women will be obese by 2030. The Association for Dietetics in South Africa is currently highlighting this ahead of World Obesity Day, and it comes as global body, also warning that half the world will be obese by 2035. Now, ADSA President Maria van der Merwe joins us now to take us through some of these stats and to unpack this problem in the country. Maria, thank you so much for your time, and good morning to you. I mean, how big is of a problem, rather, is it in South Africa? And how big of a problem is obesity and being, issues around being overweight, do you think, in the country, is it?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. The theme for this year's World Obesity Week is changing perspectives, talk about obesity. So thank you for this opportunity to do exactly that. We know in South Africa about 2/3, 2 out of every 3 women, adult females, are either overweight or obese. And while the statistics in men are slightly lower, it is still showing an increase over the last 2 decades. Of further concern is obesity amongst children is also on the rise, with about 13%, or 1 in 8 children, already being overweight or obese. So that is not only a concern for us in terms of nutritional status, but acknowledging first that obesity is a disease, a disorder, and the treatment thereof requires a very complex intervention. So not only looking at obesity stats, but also considering that overweight and obesity contributes to a significant increased risk in developing non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, certain types of cancer, stroke, heart disease. And these conditions do not only impact on individuals, but also has a significant cost implication for our health system, estimated at about 33 billion rand a year from the public health budget, in terms of treating the disorders associated with obesity. Therefore, we have to consider not only obesity and overweight itself, but also the consequences thereof for each individual, community, and ultimately for us as a country.
Maria, we're seeing stats here showing that, at least according to the World Obesity Atlas of 2022, 50% of South African women will be obese by 2030. This is the highest predicted rate in Africa. Why are we seeing this number tearing more towards women than men?
If we look at the causes of obesity, we know a simple equation like calories consumed and calories used would underlie the cause of obesity, overweight or obesity. But we need to understand what contributes to the energy we consume and what contributes to the energy we use. And that includes genetic factors, biological factors, social circumstances, economic circumstances, access and availability of food, as well as mental health, and even how well we sleep. So if we consider that these underlying roots of obesity are very diverse and complex, it does start to explain why females are more affected than males. So starting with genetic factors, it does seem like our female population, and specifically also our Black African female population, are more prone to develop obesity. We can also consider an important factor in South Africa being that we are still having a challenge of a childhood underweight, and undernutrition in childhood is also associated with obesity in adulthood. So while it seems contradictory, that is the reality, and therefore such a concern, and another reason why we cannot only look at addressing obesity in individuals or once it has occurred, but if we look at preventing obesity, it is a variety of circumstances that needs to be considered, including, of course, the best start in life for infants and young children.
Yeah. So with that being said, do we know of the South African Health Department's strategy in preventing and controlling obesity in the country?
The Department of Health had a national strategy for obesity prevention and control for the period 2015 to 2020, and there was a bit of a gap, but they have announced a draft strategy towards the end of 2022 that we are expecting to be finalized and approved soon for the period 2023 to 2028. A 5-year period. So, in addition to the national strategy, we need to consider that it's not only from the health sector or the health department that we have interventions or need interventions. It needs to also cut across other sectors: agriculture, economy, education, etc. Yes. So we also have other interventions from health. For example, labeling regulations. We've just seen new draft labeling regulations aimed at awareness amongst the public of what is in our food, warning against food that may be high in fat, high in salt, high in sugar, risks of the intake of that being associated with increase in obesity and overweight. So there are also other interventions aimed at that intention to also regulate the advertisement of certain foodstuff to young children to avoid the commercial influence. So yes, we have a strategy that will soon be implemented.
Video right there because I think she basically covered everything. Um, so the challenges that South African women face when tackling or wanting to tackle obesity is that
Oh, welcome back. Now,
it is
here's a shocking
far
stats
less safe for
for you.
women to exercise in their communities. Um, we have seen multiple of reports and articles of women just disappearing, and we've seen articles of them ending up dead in or their bodies dumped. But that isn't just because they wanted to uh, exercise, or it's because there's a problem in our system where we as women, as South African women, can't even go for a walk alone in the afternoon um, because we want to and we aren't afforded that opportunity to do it. We're scared to walk alone. But aside from that, so Professor Krier that I was referring to earlier points out that career women who are primary carers of school-going children finding it much harder to engage in regular physical activity than their male counterparts, because the men don't really focus on caring for their child, going to pick them up so much as the mothers do. But so there's an unequal burden of childcare and home life maintenance in South Africa, with women bearing these responsibilities far more than men do, and therefore simply having less time available to exercise. But many neighborhoods in South Africa are also simply unsafe for women to engage in regular free physical activities, such as walking, running, and cycling in the area. Because South Africa's high rates of gender based violence is a limiting factor when it comes to women's opportunities to live more healthy lifestyles. Um, like I said earlier, I think uh, even though somewhere in some neighborhoods there are those free jungle gyms, you can go there, go do your workout, but there's always that someone on your shoulder that's saying it's not safe to be for you to be alone there. You need to take someone with. Um, and I think, like Professor Kriya said, uh, we all have different socioeconomic conditions. So some of us may be able to do it, others not. So, and then we also have the South African food deserts that ignite higher rates of obesity. A food desert is described as an area where there is little to no affordable fresh produce available daily, and the dominant community eating habits include buying cheap vendor and fast foods. Um, I was at a convention last year where the dietitians of South Africa came together to talk about how to address something like obesity and how to make people aware of eating more healthily. And there was a professor from Uganda there saying that government and government needs to take hands with like food street vendors and people that have their own small gardens at home where they say for instance sell their their fruits and their vegetables to the people in the community and make it more available and cheaper for people to rather buy 5 fruits and 5 vegetables for the daily lunch or dinner or breakfast rather than them buying KFC around the corner. Um, I've seen so many fast food places in or across from, say, complexes and even in uh, malls, and we have these more fast food places than you if there's then there is a person selling fruits and vegetables. So if we can say, okay, for every KFC, there should be 2 street vendors selling fruits and vegetables at the same spot, where people can decide do they really want a KFC burger and chips, or if they can buy fresh produce where they can go home and prepare a nutritious meal for them. So, yeah, and excess weight also impacts on women's fertility, like I said earlier. So, according to Maria, who just spoke, she said obesity disrupts hormones, which can impact on regular healthy ovulation. Um, so, overweight and obese women have higher levels of a certain hormone called leptin because adipose or fatty tissue acts as an organ secreting hormones, and this reduces fertility and acts and affects the insulin resistance in the body. And research shows that the quantity and the distribution of body fat affects the menstrual cycle and reduces ovulation. Therefore, more excess weight and the more abdominal fat, particularly, the greater the risk of fertility challenges. With a BMI of upwards of 29, women are less likely to be able to conceive because they may not ovulate regularly. And that's why doctors usually tell you you should first lose weight if you want to try for a baby. So, and then there's also the economic impact of obesity on South Africa's healthcare system. And um, Michael Bochi, I think that's how you pronounce his surname. He's a researcher from the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. He and his team did research and calculated the cost of obesity to South Africa's health system. And their aim was to estimate the direct healthcare costs associated with the treatment of weight-related conditions based on public sector tariffs. So, based on their calculations, overweight and the obesity are costing South Africa's health system 33 billion a year, and this presents to 15.38% of government health expenditure and is equivalent to 0.67% of the GDP. And the per person annual cost is 2,769 Rand. And among the most expensive conditions to manage were diabetes and cardiovascular diseases that is usually associated with obesity. And the analysis showed that overweight and obesity impose a huge financial burden on the public healthcare system in South Africa. And it suggests an urgent need to prevent, excuse me, for preventative population level interventions to reduce overweight and obesity rates. So the scale of the problem, um, so overweight and obesity usually increase the risk of non-communicable diseases, and the burden contributes to the country's high prevalence of diabetes, for example, and an estimate of 11% of people older than 15 had diabetes in 2021. And this is much higher than Nigeria's prevalence of 4%. Um, and then around 12 million people, excuse me, suffer from weight-related diseases for which they receive treatment in the public sector. And these include diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, and some cancers. So, yeah, so it's a lot of money for to that is uh not wasted, but you can probably say wasted on money that could have been put to good use for something else in the healthcare system, like upgrading hospitals to for the people. We've seen the long lines people have to wait in to get treated at hospitals, day hospitals and clinics. Um, but also, like Maria also said, a lot of obesity is also is about genetics. So if it's in your genes, then you can't really say, um, hey, I don't want to be obese, but you can um, prevent it. Sorry, just getting my notes in order. So the South Africa has put in prevention and management strategies, like Maria said earlier, the health promotion levy, or the so-called sugar tax that they implemented in 2018. Um, I've seen or I've seen that on the Coke bottle they put they say with less sugar, and so it doesn't taste as, you can't really taste that there's less sugar in it, but it's got less sugar in it. And there's also now a public participation out for, the government wants to also put a sugar tax on 100% fruit juice. And fruit juice, there aren't added sugars on fruit juice. So I think that causes a bit of a concern, because why would you want to put a tax on fruit juice that is 100% 100% when there's no added sugar? And fruit, or the sugars in fruit, it gets broken down naturally in our bodies, and it's what's the word? You don't, it's not necessarily that you going to get fat when you drink it, say, every day for 5 days. It gets broken down, but it's not added sugar that's in the the juice. So the strategies that let me just see. Okay, that South Africa put in place is the plan for prevention and control of non-communicable diseases, and then also the promotion of healthy lifestyles, the sugar tax I was talking about, and school-based interventions, and also strengthening health systems. I think they've now implemented the new strategy, but if it's there hasn't been any new research or information about how the strategies have been. Has it been successful? Has it did it bring down the obesity levels? Are people not buying the Cokes and the Fantas and yeah, the fast foods or the non-nutritious foods? That's one thing that needs to be found out, if the sugar tax is really helping. Um, and I don't think it really discourages people to not buy that Coke. You're just gonna have the Coke. There's a Coke Zero. There's um, a Fanta Zero that has no sugar in. Yes, people buy them, but that doesn't discourage them from buying the normal Fanta. Um, it has brought in a significant amount of money for in the tax revenue year, um, and how much of that money put or has been used for the health system or to manage the obesity levels in South Africa. And so that was my story on obesity. But then there's also another problem in South Africa, um, hunger, which is like the very extreme of obesity, um, where you have the one extreme of obesity and the other extreme of hunger that has been exasperated by COVID-19. And we've seen it where people um, couldn't work for a few weeks. There wasn't money to buy food. So obviously, um, people started to get food packages out to them. And you could actually see how many people don't have food every day on their table, uh, may it be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And we've always known that hunger has been a problem in South Africa and that people don't have jobs to put food on the table. But then COVID came and it showed the problem. So I'm just gonna play a short piece of this video. Carte Blanche did this, where he interviewed, I think, two mothers with kids, and he says, or the ladies tell him that they would go like a week without food and then they only drink water. The mother would give her food to the kids just so that they can eat. Um, and we don't want to sit here the whole evening. Um, so yeah, you've seen the video, and I just wanted to show you the two extremes living in one ec ecosystem, if I can put it like that, where you have high obesity rates, but also children dying because of malnutrition. Um, and it's quite shocking that we have these numbers, not only children dying because they're not getting enough food or getting any food at all. Um, and I think, yeah, government really has their work cut out for them to not only tackle obesity, but also malnutrition. Um, I hope I've shed some light on these two problems for you guys. Please don't ask me any questions. I'm not an expert. I only do research uh, for articles about these topics, and I talk to the experts. I'm not an expert myself, but I can send you on links if you want, or I can send you the PowerPoint presentation, and I can forward you the experts' email addresses if you want to know more information about, if you want to get more information about not only malnutrition but obesity as well. Um, so yeah, that is that is it. I hope you guys learned something here today. When I first started doing the presentation, I was like, yes, I know what I'm going to talk about. And I've seen a lot of articles and um, segments on obesity. And when I saw the last video I showed you guys, it brought tears to my eyes because in such a small country, there's like province where children are dying because they can't eat. Um, and that is a wake up call for us all, especially with the elections coming up, that we need to make sure our vote counts, and that we can improve these people's lives. Thank you.